How's it going, YouTube? MTG Critical here, back with another month of Storage Showdown, and boy howdy do I have some incredible interviews lined up for you this month. Now, last month we got to spend a lot of time looking at some incredibly hard-hitting and deep stories, and this month is no different, so I thought we'd start off with a good old Phyrexian tale. Ria of Bladehold for March of the Machine. Now in this episode, Bugs and I discuss a sort of farm-to-table, toe-to-tip approach when it comes to developing a Magic the Gathering deck around one specific card. If you like what you see in this interview and you want to follow Bugs, you can find them on Blue Sky, where they're one half of the podcasting team for Podtog, I can speak, as well as over on the Exhibitionists stream. Every week they discuss and they explore Bracket 1 decks. The gameplay is exciting and fun, and the chat gets hype every time, so definitely catch them over there every week. But before we get into it, I do just want to let you know that my audio was completely messed up for this entire interview. For whatever reason, my personal audio lagged, so I had to do a lot of audio engineering for this episode while I was editing, which I'm not good at, nor do I have the experience necessary to accomplish. So please, bear with me when you're watching this episode. Some parts are a little bit out of sync. I hope that doesn't pull you out of it too much. But without further ado, and without gilding the lily, here is the first of this month's Storage Showdown.
The earth will tremble hard as he approaches. The ground will shake at the sound of clicking claws. The universe is wider than we know it. He holds our planet in his mighty paws.
Get started. I'm gonna start with the first question I ask everybody. What story did you choose? And I'm really curious to know what drew you to it specifically.
Okay, so we're already going to be deviating a little bit because this deck is a combination of two stories. It would be a combo of Ria of Bladehold and then Ravnica, one and the same, from the March of Machine side stories.
Beautiful, beautiful. What drew you to those two stories specifically? Was it the tone, the characters?
This entire deck is really funny that it's become this like big flavor, like the reason why I've like gotten into like Magic story in general is so I've only been playing since Brothers War. Like that was my first set proper. And early on, people were telling me about like Commander, and I'm like, oh, that's really cool. Like, I love a building restriction. Like, I'll learn how to brew. And I'm like, I really want to build like a black-white deck. And I don't have any black and white legendaries. So, my friend had just bought a box of Phyrexia All Be One. And she opened a bunch of crazy shit, and I saw Ria Ivor in it, and I'm like, that's a black and white legendary. And I looked at the text box, and I'm like, I have no idea what this means. But I'm just like, I want a black and white demons deck. So this started as like a very not flavor forward thing. But then I'm like looking at her, I'm like reading the text, I'm like, she makes whites? What's going on here? I'm like, well, if she's Ria Ivor, the Bane of Bladehold, Bladehold's got to be something in Magic, right? So I'm just googling like Bladehold Magic, and then I find Hero of Bladehold, and then I find like the Ria of Bladehold story, and I'm like, oh, she kicks ass. She kicks this like badass like warrior woman with a big sword. Yes. So like I fall in love just like with that aspect of things. And as this is going on, like we're ramping up into like the whole Phyrexian invasion. And then the Vraska story drops, and I'm reading this, and I'm like, oh, this is like a really interesting headspace into someone who formerly hadn't been completed, hadn't been like part of the Phyrexian, like, and then like really like a forerunning, like part of the very aggressive invasion force. So not just like a Phyrexian, but like one of the like leaders of the charge.
Yeah.
And so like there's this tension that we get into with Vraska, like as she's like dealing with the like destruction of Ravnica all around her, and she's like kind of giving into the hive mind of the oil, but like not quite. And I'm like, this is ooh.
You know, it's really interesting that you kind of found your way into the storytelling and world building aspect of Magic through the cards themselves. For a lot of people, for some people, myself included, it's the opposite. I saw comics as a kid, I saw books in my library as a kid, but I didn't know anyone that played the game, right? So it's really interesting that you were able to kind of find your space in the story through a specific card. And I love that. So kind of from that, did Ria carry an emotional or thematic weight to you? And if so, would you say that that's kind of the driving force behind some of the choices you make when building this deck?
Yeah, like so like Ria as this like leader of this kind of like not like scrappy force by any means, but like maybe a little bit less polished than they'd like to be, especially with this like invading, like this rising Phyrexian threat. You know, it's kind of an uphill battle, but she's the leader, and she's got all these people who are like way her junior, like under her ward. That goes really poorly, but in a prior life, I was the captain of my track team in high school, and so like kind of having that, I'm like battle cry. Yeah, it's like, all right, follow me. We're gonna run really fast. We're gonna go like knock some sense into the, like I'm like, yeah, like I love that. Just like and just like I think like the story of like a fallen hero is so fun, and just like, oh, how hard she fucking falls.
Yeah, for real. No, but it's really interesting though that you could kind of connect with her on a very real level. You guys both have that sort of that leadership past to you.
Yeah.
And that's not something that you find a lot in like purely fictional characters. So that's really that's nice.
Yeah, and like I also, again, I'm just like, I love a badass lady with a big sword on a horse. Like, so this like backwards kind of like you know, I see the hero Bladehold card, and I'm like, she's perfect.
Right?
Yeah.
Were there any specific characters or moments or settings in either of these stories that have really stood out to you? I know that Vraska is definitely one, but you know, any others?
Vraska's a big one. The other big one has to be Robot Mommy. Like, it has to be Elish Norn. Like Elish Norn is the reason that all this nonsense is happening. And just like there's this, I find just in a color pie way, I find her very interesting, because like while she is like the white aligned praetor, it's so like glorious, self-absorbed, like borderline victory at any cost, which feels much closer to like a black aligned like, color identity. And I love there's this magnificence, there's this grandeur that she kind of demands. Yeah. And like, and not only does she demand that, but she demands an audience. And so giving her like an audience of tokens is like,
no, absolutely. It's interesting that you bring the color pie discussion into this, because she does kind of register closer to a black aligned being, and you see that kind of, you could almost make the argument that stems from the very black aligned Yawgmoth and oil that she was born from, right? She almost takes white and literally corrupts it.
Yes. Because you have this, oh my god, just like, as an aside-ish, kind of, I mean, this is a card in the deck, but the Grand Cenobite having both an anthem as well as a specifically, like, it's sort of a micro board wipe, but done through, like, minusing rather than destroying. Like, that's not white.
Yeah, it's very Massacre Girl, very Massacre Worm. Like, it's very,
it's literally
not white.
Massacre Worm. It's -2/-2.
Yeah.
And like, I find the way specifically Phyrexians play with like both pushing color identity to its logical extremes as well as in some ways wronging. Like, the Vorinclex, OG Vorinclex that like doubles your mana and halves
Yes.
everyone else's. Like it's that give and take.
You're gonna get all of the good parts of green, and you're gonna suffer for it.
Yeah,
Because it's corrupted.
it's just, and seeing that then reflected back into Ria with like the she moves from mono white into an Orzhov alignment with the corruption of the oil. Like it's both the, like very literalizing of the black oil.
Yeah.
And then also the ways in which I feel like her ability like rearticulates the very straightforward hero of Bladehold, like make two guys, they're temporarily bigger because like battle cry and stuff whenever she attacks. Instead, she doesn't need to go into combat, and she can theoretically make way more guys, but they're so much more fragile and weird and also as corrupted as her because they have like the toxic component. I'm like, I like this was like a weirdly perfect card for me to be like story and flavor and function kind of all.
It does make me curious though. You built this deck originally because you wanted to build a black-white commander deck, and she just happened to fall into your lap.
Yes.
Which is a picture-perfect moment, really. But when we think about Magic's Color Pie, the Phyrexians especially are a heavily segregated race color-wise.
Yes.
So when you were reading these two stories, when you were building this deck, obviously you're going to stick to Orzhov because that's the colors that Ria is printed in.
Yeah.
But if you could describe the stories or the deck's overall tone with a color or feeling or combination of colors, I'm curious if it would still be Orzhov or if not, and why.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so that's really hard because it's Orzhov. Like whenever I introduce the deck like at tables, I'm like, yeah, it's Orzhov Voltron, which is like you don't really see that very often. But I would say that like broadly it skews more into a white aligned go wide game plan. We're making lots of tokens. We have a handful of like either like one-sided anthems or one-sided board wipes that are like, I'm protecting my little buddies. I'm making a bunch of them, but then we do dip into this like black aligned, like using all of our resources, which up to and including the little guys we're making, where there's a lot of like sacrifice benefits, or like when my things die, like death trigger benefits. Yeah. That start to like it's this corruption of a mono white, I think, deck. Because it could just be like mono white Voltron makes sense, where it's this like
and you see it a lot with cards like Light Paws and Zur and all of those,
or Brimaz would probably be a fun and I got the Phyrexian Brimazes in here. Why not? But so it's this. How would I want to describe it? Like it is so interested in using the whole deer when it comes to like, well, what can we do with token go wide, where there is like a little bit of a there's like creatures entering causing life gain, there's some stacks elements, but then like death triggers and other resource denial, and like this compounding situation where it's like this, it just kind of feels like an evil laugh the entire time.
Yeah. The thing about you saying that it feels like an evil laugh is that the stories behind this deck are incredibly dramatic, incredibly grandiose in nature.
Yes.
And very, I guess very like villainous in their overall storytelling. It's very brutal. It's very gruesome. There are a lot of scenes in most of the like March of the Machine stories that get really like crazy.
There's a lot of death.
there's a lot of death. And so when we talk about this storytelling and this world building and the things that connected to you specifically, did you see any when you were looking back at these stories, refamiliarizing yourself with Ria, did you see any real world parallels or like personal experiences that made these stories like resonate with you?
I mean, again, to kind of liken like the leadership qualities of Ria, like pre Phyresis, like there is something that I'm like, oh, this is like the bad ending for me a little bit, where it's like, seeing, oh, she's like what should have been a very like straightforward little like search party to double check like what's going on, leads to a massacre of ultimately everyone she knows and loves, like once the siege falls and all of that. And it's just like, because she was gung-ho, because she was like trying to be like take charge, it's like, I don't know, I find something so like I'm in the oldest sibling of 4, and so it's also like I'm used to having like people that I take care of. I'm like, no, I'm making the right choice, don't worry, this is going to be okay, you can trust me. And then seeing just like someone thrust into that position and then it just all falling, I'm like, oh baby girl, oh no. I'm like, it's like, no, you should have been like, they're dead in a weird way, we're turning back, like turn the car around, we're gonna go tell people now, this is not good, I am not prepared for this. I'm also terrible at asking for help. So like, it's just, I'm like, it's like, no, we got this, guys. No, we don't got this. We don't got it. Oh no, you're dead now. Oh no.
Yeah, no, it's a very hindsight's 2020 moment for Ria, and it is interesting that one of the first things you said is that this is the bad ending for you.
Yeah.
Which, very rarely do we get treated to stories that have a bad ending, like not a badly written ending, but a negative ending. It's very rare to find stories that end that way, that still resonate and call to you on a personal level. So that's really interesting. Yeah. So now that we kind of transition out of the discussion about the story itself, I really kind of want to dig into this deck a little bit. Yeah. The deck list is live on Moxfield. It's going to be in the description below. And I had a blast looking through it. I loved All Will Be One. I loved March of the Machines. And I bought a lot of boxes of it. So getting to look through a lot of the cards again was just a nice kind of refreshing blast from the past. So when you started building this deck, obviously I know that you kind of started with Ria as an Orzhov deck as the end goals. Ria was the choice. So did you start just with Ria, or was it a mechanic or an overall vibe that you were going for in the beginning?
So this has gone through several iterations of like, all right, it's Ria, and then I'm like, it's just Ria because I want black-white creatures and just doing that shit. Then I'm like reading, I'm like, okay, Toxic 1, making guys, and I'm like, oh, I want to make lots of guys. So like, I initially I look into token doublers, and I'm like, those are all really expensive. So we're gonna table token doublers for a little bit, but like, guys that might, make mites or make other tokens, because like Battle Cry is cool and interesting. So then it kind of becomes this, like Orzhov, go wide, putting just like whatever anthems or guys that make guys, and like ways of connecting Ria into this. And I kind of percolate on that for a while, just like slowly replacing everything with like more and more Phyrexian theming, which is all maybe a metaphor for completion in itself, who's to say. But like, as that's going, and I kept finding myself like really being drawn to the challenge of skewing closer and closer and closer into a very flavorful deck. Like at a certain point, the game plan became, I want to simulate the Phyrexian invasion of the multiverse with Ria as one of Elish Norn's main generals. Which then it's like, I want Ria to be badass in it. I want every Elish Norn in it. And I don't want to win. Like, I want the win con to be Phyrexian.
Yeah. Which is not something you hear a lot.
No. It's like it's I have tried. I'm just gonna call them good cards.
Mhm.
Like I've had things that are like ostensibly good for what the deck wants, and then I like win once with it, and I'm like, well, that didn't feel right.
It didn't feel
Like-
good.
Like I had Moonshaker Cavalry when that dropped. I got one in the first pack of Eldraine that I opened. I'm like, jam that into Ria, and then I won with it, and I'm like, yeah, White Crater Hoof.
Yep.
Okay, take it out immediately. Or you know, at the time of recording, the most recent set that was out was Dragonstorm, and
Mhm.
there's the Starry Eyes Skyrider, which has a crazy line of text in it, which is attacking creatures you control have flying. Attacking token creatures you control have flying.
Yeah.
That is nuts.
Yeah, not
I-
to mention the Elspeth that would triple your
Yeah.
tokens. Yeah.
And I have off and on had an Elspeth in the deck for like shipping reasons.
With whom? I must ask.
Mom! With
Okay.
Mom! like I've off and on had specifically the March of Machine Elspeth
Yeah.
in here just because I'm like, and now kiss.
There's star-crossed lovers, you know?
They really, you know. But yeah, like I took one look at Starry Eye Skyrider and I'm like, this would go nuts in Ria. Never. Oh well. Like it's just like having
Yeah.
like, you know. So I've had the deck in its. I guess I would say like 80% of its form for the last like year and change.
yeah.
It's kind of become the we're oops all Elish Norns, we're like oops all Phyrexians. So it's always exciting, like you know, I'll see cards that I'm like, this is ostensibly a great card for the deck, however, it's such a flavor fail where it's
Yeah.
like, I can't just have one Tarkir human.
Yeah, you're not going to put one Bloomburrow bunny in it, you know?
No.
Yeah.
I want, believe me, I want to. I always want to put a Bloomburrow bunny into something.
Well, I mean, they're really
I-
good, so.
That is a different I love Bloomburrow, but
Oh, it was incredible.
that is maybe my favorite set.
Outside of the Elish Norns, I want to know the flavor wins that you'd be proud of that people playing against this deck might not necessarily pick up if they didn't know about the story or about the invasions.
Okay, so there's a couple of cards that there's two cards that I want to ultimately get altered to be the most flavor wins. And they're the two kind of like, I would say like they're the most important enchantments that make the deck work,
Okay.
which are Fallen Ideal and Gift of Immortality. Just
Ooh, yes.
their names, like Gift of Immortality, I think is such a fun card to put in the context of Phyresis.
Yeah.
Yeah. And ditto with Fallen Ideal, which then all of a sudden, like, it creates, like, it turns whoever's enchanted with, but usually I will do Ria, because it's like she is this fallen angel who is able to, like, lead a massive army into battle, gather an even bigger army, and then eat that entire army just to become more powerful. Like, it's so, like, those are like if I can have Ria flying around because of Fallen Ideal, like, I kill people with commander damage sometimes.
Yeah.
Just off that.
I mean, you're playing Orzhov Voltron, so
Yeah,
I would hope so.
It's a fun one. This is maybe a little bit more obvious of a flavor win, but like it's a bigger win for me just because it's a card that I don't think is cast in Commander very often because it's a very silly card that's probably not great, but it has my favorite art in the game, so I like Phyrexian Dreadnought. And being
Phyrexian
able
Dreadnought is excellent.
I love this thing. It's nutty. And just being able to like fair cast a Dreadnought because I ate a bunch of my little mites, like, makes me happy. Like that is, it's that's one of the like, I guess I have like personal wins if certain things happen.
Sure.
So like, if that happens, or if I'm able to get both the Phyrexian Obliterator and the Phyrexian Vindicator.
Yes.
Which for those listening, they have one is a 4 black pip and the other is a 4 white pip. Like they're weird to cast. It's very weird to get both down.
Yeah, you're getting both sides of the coin out on the board at the same time.
And it's just it rules. Like I guess because we are trying to the idea for this really started to crystallize for me around March of Machine and seeing all of the team up cards.
Yeah.
There is kind of a consistent flavor win for me every time I play it, which is causing a weird 3-player team up to kind of join together and kill Phyrexia, because if I will have an explosive start.
Yes, yeah,
and then
absolutely.
It's making this, yeah.
You're getting to experience and play out the Phyrexian invasion at every table you bring the deck to.
And sometimes we win.
And sometimes you win.
Sometimes we really don't. Usually it's I do something terrifying and promptly die.
I do kind of want to go back a little bit. At the beginning of this interview, you talked about how you started playing Magic with Brothers War.
Yeah.
Which is relatively recent. It's not too far in the past as far as this game is concerned. So with that being said, with that kind of being your first exposure into the stories from Magic the Gathering, do you think that storytelling in general has a place in gameplay? How important, and I know that with this deck specifically, flavor is important, but in general, how important would you say flavor is to you when building or playing a commander deck?
Oh my, commander especially. I need the flavor for a deck, if not to be verbatim, only having creatures who would have interacted or existed at the same time. I can let that slide a little bit, but I still want cards that feel. The way that I've phrased it before is I want cards that feel like they would be friends with each other in a deck. For a while, I had an Esper Tawnos Artifact Reanimator deck. Okay. And I intentionally was building it to be a flavor fail because it was full of weird. It had a Mondrak in it. It had Phyrexians in it. Tawnos would not fuck with Phyrexians at all. Yeah. So that was just this. Oh wow. And as I was playing, I was I don't like the way this feels. Yeah. And so I really, really appreciate the challenge of like building a deck that feels like it's not just mechanics forward. Like this is not just a game with rules text on blank cardboard. And so having I'll check all the boxes for like needs flavor first. Like if I can have, if all these guys are from like a similar plane, cool. All the basics need to have art of that plane. All of the like staple cards, if I can find art of that plane, that's gonna be in it. But I think that there's something so fun with doing that, like in Commander, because it's like, we put a lot of time and thought into these decks. And like being able to share like, hey, these aren't just like cards that I like, but like this is a part of Magic that I really like. Yeah. You get a much more personalized game when you're playing with people that all have a connection with the commander they're using, that have a connection with the cards that were chosen for that commander specifically. You get to learn a lot about people when you sit down with them and play those decks. It's so interesting to see, like especially because it's Phyrexians. So there's always there's big emo. I've never been like someone be kind of mid. Like on Phyrexians. It's either like hell yeah, Phyrexians, or I'm gonna kill you. I hate Phyrexians. You sit down and you are either someone's best friend or someone's arch enemy immediately. And I love trying to pal up to people who hate Phyrexians. I'm like, I've had conversations before where we discuss the
we discussed the weight that a lot of characters have from the storytelling to the cards themselves.
Yeah.
And I think that Wizards does a pretty good job at this, where if they're a bad guy, like, when you sit down, like, I don't need to know anything about the Phyrexian story to know when you put Elish Norn at Grand Cenobite in front of me that's a villain.
That is a villain.
That is a villain.
That
is a villain in the story. And so it's it's always interesting when you sit down to play a game with someone and they're gonna play a deck that they clearly have a connection to, and that deck is evil as hell.
Yeah. I know, because I mean, like, I think part of it is like the age-old adage that like evil is unfortunately cool and hot.
Yeah.
Like, Star Wars runs into this all the time, where it's like, yeah, everyone's like super into the Empire because, like, I'm sorry, have you seen TIE fighters?
Right.
They're sick.
They're
like,
awesome.
I love horror movies, so like seeing like freaky dudes that are like made of too many limbs and teeth, I'm like, yeah. He's got like I've just started sketching out a Vishgraz deck that is kind of a complement to this, but it's really trying to dig into, like, Vishgraz is this like rejected abomination that like really doesn't get to have any sort of like day in the sun, because like immediately Atrax is like, no, like, Ixiel, what the fuck is that? No, get no, none of this. And so she like, just kind of lets him loose the Hunter's Maze. And I'm like, I want like Vishgraz and his weird dudes. Like this is all like Elish Norn.
Yes,
like,
it's Vishgraz and his Lost Boys.
It's Vishgraz and his Lost Boys. Like, it's the freaky little guys. Like, if this Ria deck is like this well-coordinated army that's going to destroy you, Vishgraz is just like, hey man, you want to steal my arms?
Get 'em, boys.
Like, I got my little grabbers. Like he's got different legs. He's just he's just a big Phyrexian Lego. I love him.
All right, so before we end this, I just want to thank you again, Bugs, for coming on and agreeing to do this. I've been having such a blast with these challenges. I hope you had fun reading the stories, and so to finish this off, the floor is going to be yours after I ask this question, and you can take a little bit of time to think about it if you want. What do you hope that people take away from this episode and your story choices specifically, or your deck, or just the process of connecting lore and gameplay? I know that that's multiple questions in one. You can pick and choose. You don't have to answer them all. I'm just curious, when you, Bugs, sit down at a table with either me and the other contestants in this game, or at a game at MagicCon or something, what are you hoping that people feel when they look at that deck, when they see the characters hit the table, or when they read the story?
Oh gosh. I think if I could instill like the excitement that I got, like just really like, taking a second to be like, oh wait, this is a named guy. Like this is Ria Ivor, Bane of Bladehold, and being like, I bet Bladehold is something, and just like doing a quick little Google search, finding that, and just like really, if a card is like connecting with you in any way, and just like having that like rabbit hole dive experience of like, wait, hold on, this is cool, I need to know all about this. Like I wish there was like more. I wish Ria like played a bigger part and like all we want. I'm like, oh my gosh, no, give me more of that. And like just like getting, I hope that like, especially like because this is a much more like edge character versus someone like any of the big planeswalkers, or like Urza, or even like Tawnos that I mentioned earlier. I'm like, yeah, I know Tawnos, I know Ashnod. I love Ashnod. She's like, I support women's wrongs. But like, just realizing like, especially some of the weird like lesser immediately, like, because I feel like there's some cards that you can feel like it's like, oh, this is like, if it's a card that's very easy to play, they're probably a main character. And if it's a card that's kind of baffling, it's like, who's this weird side character? But like, just like dig into some of the weird side characters. Like, have fun, find a weird guy, and then tell me about the weird guy. Like, oh my gosh, like and you know, selfishly, find a weird guy with baffling rules text, because it is so fun to sit down at a table where like just like watching people, like, because I'm a dick, and so I play the full art Ria.
Oh yeah.
Doesn't have reminder text for Battlecry. I know what Battlecry does. I love watching people try to remember what Battlecry does. Like, just getting to explain to people this fucking Yu-Gi-Oh card.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's like, how does Ria's attack trigger work? And I'm like, well, let's move to combat and I'll show you. And just like I find weird guys that make you excited, and like, I don't know, like, give them friends. Get like try to really dig into what these characters, like, even if it's just like a little bit of lore, because like with Ria, it's like, okay, swordmaster, badass fighter, and then incorporating like the process of being completed via Vraska. Like, okay, what can we do with that? And I'm like, okay, so I'm gonna fill this deck with swords because Ria's teaching people how to use them. Like, in the story, she's like, this is how you do this technique, this is how you do that. And I'm like, perfect, all right. She's now instructing, I don't know, the Might Overseer on the basics of combat, and then we're gonna send him in to be unblockable, and he's gonna find more guys. Like, it's like it's just fun. Like, use the whole card.
Yeah.
Use the whole card.
I love that. Yeah. Top to bottom.